If music is the food of love, let us feast. What's going on, people? This is Akala, and this week's classic album. Now, a lot of people, I think people that have joined my journey as an artist in the last 5 years as opposed to the first 5 years of what I was doing, particularly the War mixtape and the early stuff, have this weird idea that because I question the way hip-hop's marketed and some of the messages that are put out, that I don't like, quote-unquote, road rap. I don't see this chasm of road rap over here, conscious rap over here, like it being two massive separate things. Because Tupac is arguably the greatest road rapper of all time and the greatest conscious rapper of all time, quite arguably. KRS-One began his career with things like Criminal Minded. Ice Cube went from NWA to making America's Most Wanted and Death Certificate. So I've never seen it as like this big separate thing. In fact, I've always tried to bring the swagger and the aggression and the energy of people like DMX, who was a big inspiration to me growing up, people like Big Punisher and Cool G Rap, into the message that I like to spit. So for me, it's not like some big distant thing. My issue has always been that hip-hop being controlled by people outside of the communities that it represents means that one aspect of hip-hop is amplified over all of the others. And while quote-unquote conscious artists like Dead Prez have their albums covered, which is what happened when Let's Get Free came out, stickers of young kids with guns in Soweto, the record label and Tower Records and all of the other companies put stickers over it because they, you know, black kids with guns rebelling against apartheid was considered too controversial to show, but black men with guns saying die nigga die, that's absolutely fine. That's always been my issue. I think hip-hop should reflect the communities that it came from, and as such, telling stories about badness and madness and fuckery and all the bad things that happen in the hood is real. Pretending that 99% of the man growing up there are doing them things is fuckery and is bullshit. So if you've grown up in and around that environment, even if you're a fiction artist where you haven't lived that, but you're great at telling those stories, cool. But that shouldn't occupy more really than 10% of hip-hop music. Because not more than 10% of what goes on in any inner city neighborhood, including some of the worst neighborhoods in America, is that. So I've always wanted hip-hop to be round and reflective and fully representative. And as such, when we talk about rap that reflects the gritty reality of 1990s New York, of places like Queensbridge, there are probably very few better at making that kind of music than Mobb Deep. Mobb Deep easily, I mean, there might be more Mobb Deep albums in this series. I would argue that the first 3 Mobb Deep albums are all classic albums. Infamous, Hell on Earth, Murder Music. But I picked this one because it's not as well known, because it was a solo effort, and because some of the production on it is just beautiful. You think about a song like HNIC or Veterans Memorial, you know, really, really beautiful production, really, really great album, incredible MC. What I love about Prodigy is that he manages to sound, with the greatest of respect to homeboy, his accent and his way of speaking is the most stereotypically kind of ghetto in terms of the drawl and the accent. Yeah, if you actually think about some of the words Prodigy uses and the phrases he puts together whilst in that accent, it's like almost supposed to be a contradiction in terms. He might say something like, my literature is colossal compared to yours. But he says it in the accent that he's... And for me, growing up listening to P, the way he would blend those kind of words, you think about the stuff he was writing when he was 19. You know, Shook Ones, he was 19 when that came out. I mean, for me, one of probably the top 10, certainly 15, but maybe even my top 10 MCs of all time. And I think Mobb Deep's music, particularly that debut album, Infamous, but even this, sorry, Infamous wasn't their debut, let me not lie. They had an album before that called Juvenile Hell. Infamous was the album that made them. But even this album, songs like HNIC, song called Genesis, track number 2, beautiful poetry, he reads over a really mellow beat. For me, what I like or love most about Mobb Deep is of a lot of the early to mid 90s hip hop that I grew up on, it's just aged so well. Like, you listen to it now and it, you know, a lot of the stuff from that period sounds like it was made then. This, you know, it was made then and it has that feel, but it still feels contemporary and current, and the production feels up to date and the mixes are banging. And the hooks, go and listen to the way Havoc is producing the vocals, listen to Shook Ones and the way they use reverb and panning and the way one vocal intersects with the other. There's a lot of fucking technical shit going on in Mobb Deep's music that people are not always crediting them with. So this week's classic album is from an entity that produced, in my view, at least 4 classic albums, which is a big deal within hip hop, because there's not many that can say they got 4 classic albums. Genuinely classic, pioneering production, lyrics, beats, hooks. This week's classic album is HNIC from Prodigy of Mobb Deep. Big up.
If music is the food of love, let us feast.